Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. In just a couple minutes, we'll get started with the workshop. All right, everyone. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew.
All right, everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here.
Thanks for joining us today. I apologize about that echo.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew.
Angel from Sandler Training. Angel will be leading us through a workshop today on how to succeed with prospecting for your business. I highly recommend getting in touch with Angel and learning more about Sandler Training. They're a great resource here to the community in San Antonio. So I'm excited to follow along with this workshop. For those that are joining us that are not Geekdom members, Geekdom is a collaborative co-working space located in downtown San Antonio. We have tons of programs and offerings for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and people in the tech industry. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Angel. Throughout this process, I'll be in the background gathering questions or comments that you want to share with Angel. So if you have any questions, please put them in any of the comments. We're live streaming on both Facebook and YouTube at the moment. And this workshop will be archived for our members. So Angel, if you want to go ahead and get us started, and we appreciate you leading this workshop, and thanks for everybody that's tuning in.
Okay, well, good morning, good afternoon, I would say. Good afternoon, Geekdom. Thank you for the opportunity, Matt and Geekdom, to be with you today this afternoon. I've collaborated with Geekdom and some companies there, so it's always good to be back and share with you a little bit about what my passion is, which is helping business owners through their sales strategies, prospecting plans, helping sales professionals do a better job when they're engaging with customers, developing opportunities. So thank you for the opportunity again to share what my passion is. I'm gonna start sharing my screen. I prepared information, some slides that I want to share with you regarding prospecting strategies, prospecting plans. Geekdom and I, through Matt and the team, we kind of brainstorm what can we put together for, organizations are within 1 to 3 years in business. But if you've been in business for more than 3 years, this is perfectly a good fit as well, because I think that the business landscape that we're all in right now as a result of the pandemic is obligating and forcing sales organizations to rethink their strategies, rethink their prospecting plans, and this is the conversation today. Just to give you an idea, a lot of people were forced out of the comfort zone to start selling their products and services virtually, something that they probably hadn't done before. You have to change your scripts, you have to change your talk tracks, you have to change your prospecting. Obviously, we've got hunters that are very good in person selling now, sitting behind desks, completely going crazy because they need that in person contact. Well, now we can't do it. So how do you get creative to make sure that you are in touch of those with those targets, in touch with those clients? So the competitive landscape and the business landscape right now is completely different. So my goal today is to make sure that I give you one simple idea today that will apply to your business, to your prospecting efforts, regardless of how long you've been in business. At the end of this conversation or this session, which is scheduled till 1:30, I'm going to take probably 2 or 3 minutes to give you more information about who I am. I'll leave that at the end. I want to focus on what's important right now, and then give you a couple of resources that I want to share with you that you can use for any follow-up ideas that you have, and other tools and tactics that will be useful, that will be available because you are attending this session. So let's get started. When I was preparing for this, I was reading some studies that CBI Insights was doing regarding what is the #1 reason why startups fail. And the #1 reason was attributed to no market need. In other words, there was no need that these companies were fulfilling because they probably didn't understand their value. They didn't understand what the market was requiring. All of the above apply. And out of 101 startup post-mortems that CBI Insights did, 42%, #1 reason was because of this. It was a 42% failure in most of these cases. And I think that was surprising for me. But as well, when I started thinking about that, I started identifying reasons, and I started connecting them with what I have experienced working with other sales organizations, training them and coaching them with their processes and systems. So let me give you an overview of what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover 4 important aspects when it comes to fine-tuning your strategy. It's on a very high level. I have to touch on the universe. I think that's important, just on a very high level. Most of you are probably past that stage, but it's always good to revisit it and ask yourself the right questions. Then we're going to go into the why, which is your value proposition. As I was thinking about this 42% of failures, I was thinking, was the value proposition clear? Was it easy to communicate? Was it easy to understand? Was it easy to communicate? And was it easy for the market to process it, digest it, and apply it to their needs? And then we're going to move more into the strategic / tactical part of the conversation today, which is sharing with you the how, which is your plan, your strategy, putting it together in a very simple process that I call a prospecting canvas. And then finally going to the granular thing that I want to offer you today regarding the what, the prospecting tactical parts. This is a conversation that is probably worth hours of conversation and training and coaching, but I compiled what I thought made more sense today regarding that statistic that I just shared with you. So let's start with defining your universe. And again, this is just very high level. This is like going back to the whiteboard and understanding and asking yourself the question, why did we decide to start a business? What is that universe that we're trying to attack? So when you're having this conversation, there's two very important elements that you're dealing with. One is scope. Now, if you move towards the green area, you're focusing on a broad scope. In other words, you're focusing on the masses. Your product, your service can be applied and used by anyone, right, in the universe. So it's a broad scope. Or if you're working with the yellow section, is more of a narrow scope. And then the second element is differentiation. If you move towards the blue section, it's a high differentiated product or service. In other words, it's not price sensitive because you focus on value. And if you focus on the yellow section, it's more of a commodity. There's little to differentiate, and it's a very competitive price or cost driven landscape. So when you start doing these combinations, and I'm going to go over them very quickly, if you are in the green quadrant, you are in a universe where the bottom line is reaching cost leadership. You have to be very efficient when you're producing, when you're delivering your product and your service. It's a low cost environment. A couple of examples: Walmart, Amazon, right? And of course, that's on a very big scale. But if you think about that small world that you're in, is that where you're competing? Is it massively focused? And are we focusing on low cost production? Could be one. It requires a different value proposition. If you're focusing on the yellow section, it means that your scope is narrow, and not only narrow, but there's not enough differentiation. So it's a commodity. You have to be very cost driven. The only advantage that you have in that space is cost. What are some examples? Southwest Airlines, Dollar General. In other words, the market is very sensitive to pricing. Then as you move towards the orange section, you are in a broad scope focused on masses. You are in a high differentiated universe. You're focusing on value, differentiating your services, your products, and you're heavily investing in research and development. You're heavily investing in marketing, because you have to make sure that your communication is clear, that people in the market understands it, and you're able to stand out from the rest of the pack. And even your sales processes are so efficient and friendly, and the experience is great for the person that is using your product or your service. And then as you move downwards into the blue section, it's a high differentiated universe, but it's on a very narrow focus or scope. That means it's a premium price. It's a differentiation focus. The person that is in that quadrant is not concerned about price. The market and your clients are not concerned about price. They are willing to pay a premium price, if you're looking for some examples, in the blue section, we're talking about Porsche, Whole Foods, maybe even Land Rover when it comes to vehicles. The orange section, you're talking about Apple, you're talking about Starbucks, just to give you an example. So it's very important that you define where are you competing and what is your advantage, because that's where you're going to start thinking and extracting the ideas to formulate what your value proposition is. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about value proposition. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with this model. I chose it because it's easy to understand. It's very simple, and you could start doing this afternoon with your team if you want to. So when it comes to value proposition, that word or that title sounds sometimes very, very, very high level or strategic, but it's a very simple idea. You're dealing with two elements here. One is understanding exactly what product and service you are offering the marketplace. And then you are identifying the type of customer that you are or will be very good at servicing because you understand them. So let me start working on both areas. I'll give you an example of a company and what they did, and then I'll make a pause because I want to ask you, what are you getting from this idea of a value proposition? What is one thing that you think that you're missing? And by the way, please, I encourage you to use the chats if you have any questions. Matt is going to be stopping me. I'm happy to go over those questions with you. I'll be asking you some questions, so make sure that you also comment and bring and offer value to our conversation. And then at the end, we'll have some Q&A as well. So just a reminder, when it comes to value proposition, let's focus on product. You're talking about three essential things. You have to clearly understand, first of all, if your client uses your product, if they use your service, what type of experience do you want them to have? What will they feel as they go through that service? What will they experience when they have that product? What are they going to accomplish if they go through that experience? It's very, very important for you to understand what type of experience you want your customer to have when they're in touch with your product and services. Now, that experience is based on the benefits that your product or service offers. What are those? Make a list of those benefits that your service or product offers. And then think about what are the features that we have that nobody has. What differentiates you? What sets you apart from any other substitutes in the market, any other competitors? So rethinking this, talking to your team, going to the whiteboard and answering these three questions. What are the benefits? What are the features that we only have? And then when our customer is in touch with those benefits and features, how do they feel through this experience? What do we want them to say? What do we want them to feel? What do we want them to experience? That is the first part of this exercise. Now, once you define that, then you have to start thinking about your customer. And it's three simple questions. What are the needs that your customer have? What are they trying to solve? What are their pain indicators? What are they concerned about? What are they worried about? What are the challenges that they're having? What is making their life miserable? The second aspect are the wants. If you're able to satisfy these needs, what are you going to help them accomplish? That is the wants area. If you're able to solve the pain points, what are they going to be accomplishing with that? How are you going to make their life easier? Those are the wants. And then finally, the fears. You have to be prepared for pushbacks, for objections, or anything that we sometimes consider no-goes when it comes to using your product. What do you think the market is going to fear about your product and service? What do you think a potential prospect would fear about your product and service? So what are the risks of changing or switching to your product? That is the question there. Now, you have to also understand underneath what are substitutes that are available in the market. Do you know your competition? Direct competition, indirect competition, any substitutes or any companies that are directly competing against you. When you put this together, let me give you an example of what this looks like. And this is a value proposition canvas from Evernote. Some of you may be familiar with this app. It's pretty much, a place where you store online or notes online, right? Reminders, things that you want to go back, stop using Post-its. It's an online or electronic version of keeping notes, keeping ideas that you can go back. It's kind of your storage or a second brain if you want to. This is the result of their value proposition. They clearly identify what their benefits were, what were their features, what do they want their customers to feel or think when they're going through the experience, and they understood perfectly well what their client was. Now, here's the magic behind the value proposition, and let me share with you what is the biggest mistake that salespeople, business development people, or whatever you call them in your marketing people, whatever you call them in your business, what is the number one mistake when they're pitching, when they're offering their products and services to potential clients? When they build this map, they go from left to right. In other words, they spend too much time sharing features, sharing benefits, sharing how good we are, what makes us so special, that prospects get sick and tired of just listening to salespeople that are talking too much, bragging about their features and benefits. So never go from left to right. You should start from right to left. You have to make a connection with the client. So revisit any marketing that you have. Revisit any email blasts that you're sending. Revisit any LinkedIn posts or social media posts that you're sending. And if you're focusing too much on features and benefits, prospects don't care about those. That we're actually sick and tired of organizations bragging so much about themselves and not focusing on things that are important. Understanding my needs, my wants, and sometimes some of the fears that we have. So when you're pitching an idea, let's go to something that is very tactical in prospecting. When you're pitching an idea, you should start with the right section. If I was talking to Matt and I was talking about what I do, I would say, Matt, let me give you a 30,000-foot overview of what we do. We work with a lot of entrepreneurs, startups in San Antonio that are being successful with their practice. They are expanding the reach of their business. They're probably 1 to 3 years into their business. They're growing. And occasionally, Matt, they are concerned or fearful with one of three things. Getting a lot of think it overs after meetings, after proposals, providing a lot of unpaid consulting. That means teaching your prospects how to solve something. You give away your information and then they go all over town shopping with your information and they get it cheaper from somewhere else. And some people reach out to us because they don't have a system. They don't know how to qualify opportunities. Matt, what are the things that we do for our clients? We help them with developing systems and processes that help them qualify opportunities before spending time and resources on them. I'm going to go off role play. That is just an example of how you start from the right, you go to the left section, and then it's time for Matt to start talking, because when I finish my pitch, my question will be, Matt, from the things that I just shared with you, what would you say resonates the most with you? What is one thing that you are constantly asking yourself that you and your people have to improve? Let me share one prospecting strategy with you. A prospect who is just listening is not a prospect. And you will never make a prospect share information or start talking if you're only focused on features and benefits. You have to be referring to their fears, their wants, their needs. What are they struggling with? What do I know people like you, Mr. Prospect or Mrs. Prospect, are being challenged with, uncomfortable with? And then can we have a conversation about those? Talk to me about what's going on in your world. Let me share with you an email. This is actually a spam that I got a week ago, and hopefully nobody from the group connected today sent me this. But I think it's the best spam that I've received in the last 12 months, based on the model that I just explained, starting from right to left. As I'm walking you through this, browse through what I'm sharing with you, read it, and you can identify that this person did a very good job starting with what are the things that they help organizations with, what are the challenges, needs, concerns that they're good solving, and then he went to the jugular afterwards, right at the end with the last chapter. But I think this is a brilliant piece of spam that I got. It is a spam because I have nothing to do with this business. This does not pertain to what I do. So this is never going to work for me. So what I can see is that this person just did a shotgun approach and probably sent 1,000 of these pieces to a lot of people. I don't feel appreciated by that. I would probably like to see a piece like this that is focused on what I do. So I think that this person lacked a little research to first understand who am I, what is my business about, but that's a different conversation, all right? But I want you to focus on this. This is brilliant. I really love this structure, but it's spam. It has nothing to do with my business, but this is an example of how you could use this model to reshape and redo your marketing pieces. Now, of course, you're sending me a piece of email that is structured in a very nice way, and then at the end, you ask me to marry you. I think that's too quick. You're moving too quick. I would love to see probably a white paper that he's sharing with me or she's sharing with me. I would probably like to see a link to some testimonials or maybe some success stories. I would probably like to see something that I can use to know more about you. And then probably a question at the end saying, hey, Angel, if this resonates in any way, let me know if a conversation would make some sense. And if not, hey, here's a resource that you can use. Happy to be in touch with you. Have a great week or a great month or whatever. So I'm gonna stop right there because I wanted to start this conversation high level and then focus on value proposition, because this is something that a lot of organizations are missing. And I believe this is one of the reasons why a lot of organizations fail in the first to 3 years, because they don't know how to communicate the value proposition. So here's the question for the group. Please use the chat. From the things that I have shared so far, and let's pretend that I was finishing the session right now. What is one thing that you have captured so far? What is one takeaway that probably resonated with you and the thing that you're trying to solve or do as part of your 1 to 3 year plan? I'll give you 60 seconds. Think about that. What is one idea that you've captured so far from this strategy, high level idea? And then I'm going to go to the tactical part. And if you have any questions, this is a good moment as well to ask any questions that you have. One simple idea, one takeaway, something that resonates, something that would probably be in your to-do list, to spend some time on the whiteboard, have a conversation with your team. 30 more seconds. Okay. So let's move on to the how. So let me go back to my original, one of my first slides. We talked high level universe. We talked about how to structure your value proposition following this simple model, right? And then I'm going to talk about the canvas and the how, exploring the how. So again, just revisiting the value proposition. Here we go. If you were taking notes and you didn't have a lot of time to do it, this is pretty much the structure. Benefits, features, what's the experience, wants, needs, and fears when it comes to customer, and then working on your pitch that goes from right to left. I think I have something here in my chat, so let me take a minute. Okay. Good, thank you. Thank you for start with a 30-foot big picture. Absolutely, Ignacio. You're just kind of testing the waters. That's what you want to do, right? And give him pieces of information to see if something resonates, and we can start a conversation afterwards. That's exactly the idea behind pitching. Okay. All right. So here we go. So let's get into the how. I'm not sure if anybody had seen a prospecting canvas. If you have a phone, please take a picture of this slide, because I think you have to make sure that you revisit this slide after the session and kind of do an inventory of the things that you have available and things that you still have to work on. Okay, so let me explain what the elements are in a prospecting canvas. These are the the key areas that you have to consider when you are working on a prospecting plan or strategy. Make sure that you define clearly what your prospecting goals are. Yearly goals, monthly goals, weekly goals, daily goals, activity goals, number of sales that you need. Be as specific as possible, defining what are the goals that you want to accomplish. The channels, how are you going to communicate with your universe? Multiple ways. What are those going to be? What are the most efficient ones? And you can build a plan on, and even a touch system. The funnel, where are you going to be identifying your opportunities? And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute. Cookbook behaviors. If I was a leader, I want to know exactly what my people are thinking about doing in June to start conversations. Just give me 4 or 5 strategies. How and where are you going to find conversations? Well, boss, I'm going to do dials. I'm going to do referrals. I'm going to do social media. I'm going to do networking. Great. You have to know what your behaviors are. What are the key behaviors? These are the non-negotiable activities that you have to be performing. I'm giving you the most common ones. And then tactical. How do you go about having better phone call conversations? Using 30-second commercials, doing no pressure calls, leaving voicemails, how to deal with gatekeepers. Tactical stuff that has to be part of your inventory. Role playing, having scripts for all those. Revisiting your toolbox. What are the most common pains that we're trying to solve? What are the key questions that you have to ask your prospects before you even think about doing a proposal? Key questions, key information that we have to uncover in discovery meetings. How to handle objections. How are you going to handle those pushbacks? Don't be caught by surprise. Role playing, incorporating role playing to improve your talk tracks and your talking points. And then how about your touch system? What is that going to look like? How are you going to be touching a client or a prospect? Marketing experts say that before someone knows that you exist or is even willing to think about you just for a minute, it requires 9 different touches. I see most salespeople giving up halfway through that. After 4 touches, we give up and we stop following up. We stop being in contact with our prospects. So what does your touch system look like? And then at the bottom, the foundations of this is how are you going to deal with the attitude check that is required? People, prospecting is tough. There's a lot of rejection involved. You have to know how to process a failure. You have to stop getting emotionally involved. I just had a conversation with an entrepreneur just a while ago, and he said, Angel, I'm struggling with prospecting because I'm not a salesperson. And I told him, you don't have to be one. I'm not asking you to be a salesperson. All I want you to do is just follow a process. All I want you to do is be an expert in your field. That's why you're in business. I need you to be an expert in your field. And when it comes to sales, make sure that you're following a system. Make sure that you're not improvising, prospecting, or developing an opportunity. You don't have to be a salesperson. You just have to follow a process. Here's your process, people. And as I'm walking you through this, and of course the cost structure, collaterals, memberships to networking groups, organizations, places like Geekdom, where you got people sitting next to you, you never know who they are, right? Could be a potential referral partner, could be a potential prospect, right? Events, well, most of them right now are virtual, but there's still a lot of places where you could start doing some memberships. So again, go back to the whiteboard and ask yourself, where am I? What have I completed from this prospecting canvas? And what are the things that we still have to do? That's why I told you this conversation is probably, I don't know, probably 2 months worth of information. I'm just giving you the big picture, the things that I believe are the most element or the most important one. So let's get back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a double click to 3 sections in this canvas. I'm going to focus on funnel. I'm going to do a double click there. And then I'm going to do a double click on cookbook behaviors. And then I'm going to do a double click on tactics. And here's the reason why. 30% of success related to your prospecting strategy is inspiration. Strategy, planning. 30% of your success will be inspiration. 70% of your prospecting success will come from transpiration. You have to do the work. You have to sweat. Okay? So here's the tactical piece of this conversation. Let's start with the funnel. I'll do a double click. And here's a very, very simple way to structure your prospecting behavior. Okay? You need to make sure that you understand in which quadrant you're going to be focusing in the next 3 months in order to get back on track as fast as possible, because you lost ground 8 weeks ago with this whole pandemic stuff going on. We have to go into urgent mode to make sure that we make up for the things that we lost 8 weeks ago. So here's I'm going to explain each quadrant. And as I'm explaining each quadrant, I need you to do 2 things. I need you to start thinking about names of clients, prospects that you believe belong to each quadrant, and even people. Okay? And then I want you to think about key prospecting behaviors. Think out of the box that you could be doing to touch these people, to touch these organizations. And then I'm going to give you a list of prospecting behaviors. Let's start with the first one, keep. Whether you are in your first year or 3 years of business, this first quadrant refers to current accounts, current clients that you have right now, that you have been working with, or that you have a good relationship with. If you are in close to the 2-year business, you should have a list of clients that you're already servicing them. How are you taking care of them? How are you keeping them? How are you nurturing that relationship? Your best client is your competitor's best prospect. So what type of companies belong to that quadrant? Make a list of companies that it's very easy to do business with, that we like them, we have a good relationship, they are our fans, they appreciate, they see value in what we provide. We've been servicing them for at least 6 months, 1 year, right? Even 3 months. How am I going to take care of them? Now, you could also have people in that quadrant that are your prospecting, your referral partners. How are you taking care of those people in your network that are valuable and important for you because they can connect you to other people? If you have people like that in that quadrant and you're calling them every quarter to see if they have referrals for you, that's an awful way to build a relationship. What are you doing between quarters to stay in touch with him, to provide value, to send him some leads, to help him with his business or practice? So how are you keeping your relationships? That is quadrant number one. Quadrant number two, I'm going to go to the expand quadrant. And the expand quadrant is sometimes when we're prospecting, we get trapped in the hunting mode. We're hunting, new clients, new prospects, and we forget to look back and look at the clients that we have in the keep quadrant. And my question for you today is, do you have any clients or people in the keep quadrant that you could expand? Because you have other services, you have other capabilities, you have other products that they have not bought, experienced, and that you could be offering them. How many times have you reached out to these clients, have a conversation, have a meeting to see how is our relationship working? Do we need to improve anything? If so, what are those areas? And then let me talk to you about other capacities that we have. Let me talk to you about other products and services we have. Let me go back to my canvas and share the right section related to other areas of my business that we're actually offering and doing for other businesses that compete in your same space and that they have seen some value, and see if you see an opportunity for us to expand what we're doing for you. Expand relationships. Look back at those names that you have in your database and start having those conversations and reach outs. Recapture. If you have been in 3 years in business, 2 years in business, even 1 year in business, and you have been committed to prospecting, I can guarantee that you have a database of lost deals, prospects that ghosted you. You never knew what happened to them. They stopped responding to your follow-ups. Old customers, clients that you engaged for a certain period of time and then we stopped. Make a list of those. That's your recapture quadrant. And what are the activities that you need to be doing to recapture them? Today is a great time to reach out to those old leads and ask them one simple question. Hey, Matt, this is Angel with Sandra Training. I hope that you remember me. Yes, Angel, I do. How are you doing? I'm doing well. Hey, I was reaching out to talk to you for just a couple minutes. You and I touched base or were in contact about 6 or 7 months ago. We haven't talked since. And a lot of things have changed, Matt, since we spoke. This whole COVID situation. So, my purpose today is to ask you 2 simple questions, Matt. How are things, first of all, for you and your team on a personal level? How are you guys doing? And then how have you navigated through these waters? What is ahead for you and your organization? What do you see 6 months from now? What are some of the things that you're caring about today, or that are probably, making you think, analyze on how you're going to approach them? It's a great time to have that type of conversation. You never know what's going to happen. People that were probably on the fence will start saying, Angel, I should have done this 6 months ago. Boom, you're back in the game. And then finally, attain. Attain is the prospecting area. These are the new names. These are the new prospects. These are the new niches. These are the new markets. These are the group of markets, industries, niches that in this next 6 months, you see the fastest growth. Look at the markets that you serve, and then ask yourself, which of these markets do we anticipate that they will have the fastest growth? A lot of you have been very fortunate because you are servicing essential businesses. I would go crazy about getting a database and a list of all other customers within those spaces that we're already servicing to see if we can expand our services. That is the attain. So after you make a list of those companies' niches, the next question is, what should we be doing from a prospecting behavior standpoint to make sure that we're prospecting? Remember, 70% comes from transpiration. You have to do your prospecting behaviors. You have to block time. If I've got any business owners today connected, we're wearing a lot of hats. You have to be blocking time for prospecting behaviors. It has to be in your calendar. It has to have a certain frequency. You have to block a specific time, and you have to be goal-oriented. How many dials, how many referral asks, how many social media, how many emails sent out, and track it. Make sure that you're being very, very disciplined about that. When you create this map, and once you make a list of companies and people that belong to each quadrant, then if you have a phone, take a picture of this slide. These are the most common prospecting behaviors sales professionals are doing to work each of these quadrants. So if you were wondering, there's not a lot to do because, we're still in quarantine or whatever, I got news for you. You've got a lot of things to do when it comes to prospecting. A lot of things to do. Pick the ones that make the most sense for your world. Pick the ones that you believe you're the most comfortable with, the most efficient with, the ones that have worked in the past, multiply it by 10 or 20 and start sweating. Now, somebody told me in a previous session, Angel, this is kind of overwhelming. Which one do I pick? How do I know which one is the best one? I got something for you that's very simple. It's called the prospecting wheel. And the prospecting wheel is a very simple process that you can use to be very specific about the things that you're going to focus on. You start from the center, and then you work towards the outer section of the wheel. So the prospecting wheel starts with one simple question. How many contacts or conversations do you need to have every week to fill your pipeline? If you don't know, take a guess, right? If you know, make sure that that is your weekly goal. And that's probably your most important and critical goal of anything else today. If you're not having daily conversations, weekly conversations, and hitting that number, you're going to be struggling with your pipeline. Once you identify what that number is, let's pretend it's 10, 25, whatever that number is, then go to the second stage where it's strategy. And I want you to revisit this care model, and I want you to pick 4 strategies. You can even pick 5 if you want to. 4 or 5 strategies that you believe you're very good at, you feel comfortable with, have worked in the past, that you could do or implement to start conversations. You're good on the phone, making dials. You're good networking virtual events. You're good with referrals. Referrals could be another strategy. You're good with LinkedIn. LinkedIn is another strategy. So pick 4 or 5 and make sure you stick to them. Make sure you put them in your calendar. Make sure you block time. And then the third stage is please convert that strategy into a specific behavior. You have to convert them into a specific behavior. What do I mean by that? Here's an example. This prospect said, I need 3 conversations per week. I'm not living in a world of intensive prospecting. I just need 3 good conversations per week, and I'm on the game. I'm set for success. All right. He said, there's 4 key strategies for me. Referrals, I'm good at it. It works. I've got a good network. It's easy for me to do that. LinkedIn, I'm an expert. I know how to do it. Good. Webinars, I'm good speaking. We've got a lot of value that we can offer. So I'm going to do webinars. And finally, dials. Okay. Because they figured out, if I'm doing the other 3 strategies, everything is going to funnel down to a dial. So I have to be good at dialing and contacting people. So my question was, how do you convert each of those strategies into a specific behavior? And that is the red area that you're seeing there. When it comes to referrals, his commitment with himself, his company, his team, and his family, let me repeat that again. His commitment with himself, his team, his company, and his family was to do 5 referral asks per week. What I love about that behavior is that he is 100% in control over it, because it's his decision if he does it or not. Second behavior, dials. He said, I'm going to do 10 dials a day. What I loved about that is that he decides whether he picks up the phone and he does a dial. It's his decision. I know he's 100% in control of that. When it comes to webinars, he said, I'm going to do 1 webinar a month. And my goal is to contact 10 people per week to let them know about the webinar, invite them to the webinar. Perfect. 100% in control. And finally, LinkedIn, I'm going to do 3 new contacts a day and 2 posts per day. Go for it. It's your decision. This is one of the missing parts that I see a lot of people having. They don't know what to do. They don't know what to do with this prospecting. It's such a huge word. And sometimes it's because of poor time management, because of lack of a goal-driven mindset, because we've never, identified key behaviors. So hopefully this is helping you to work throughout this plan. Keep it very simple and easy to digest. I have one more thing that I want to share with you. So let's get even more tactical. I'm going to go back to this. If you want to be great at communicating your value proposition, if you are serious about picking your strategies, if you're serious about your behaviors, then you have to be great at mastering your technique. The 30-second commercial. It's key, it's essential, because this is a deal breaker if you don't know how to explain your value, how to be clear and concise, and start a conversation with the prospect. Whether it's written through an email or LinkedIn, or whether it's through a voicemail, or whether it's in a conversation like this, because you're communicating with a group of people that are in your webinar, or whether it's in a one-on-one setting in a virtual meeting or in-person meeting. I need to stop my share just for a minute, because I need to share another document that I have. Matt, can you confirm if you can see my document on the screen?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. So everyone can. This is called the 30-second commercial creator. This is what's going to help you communicate your value proposition going from right to left. The green area is the space for you to ask yourself this question. Who do we work with? Who are our clients? And when you're communicating this to a prospect, this has to be expressed in a positive way. Take a look at the example that I'm giving you. Matt, we typically work with property management groups and business owners like you that are streamlining their processes, they're being competitive in their landscape, and they're constantly trying to innovate and be the leaders in their space. So you have to start your pitch with something positive, something that would resonate with anyone. And you have to make sure that you adjust it and target it to the type of person that you're talking to, right? If it's a VP, you're going to say, we work with VPs. If it's a CFO, we work with CFOs, right? So on and so forth. But you have to identify what are the positive traits that our clients have, okay, that would resonate with anyone. And then you transition to the yellow section. The yellow section are the wants, the needs, the pain indicators that people have or companies have that you're very good at servicing or solving. So let me go back to my example. So Matt, we work with business owners like you that are innovating, being competitive, successful, blah, 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 blah. Now, Matt, occasionally we have conversations with them because most of these business owners are fearful, sometimes frustrated or concerned with one of three things. Operational costs increasing. They are struggling with resident retention. They're having a hard time being or staying relevant in their space. Let me give you an example of what that means. And the examples are on your orange section. When I talk about operational costs, Matt, this is what we're seeing. They're not able to reduce energy costs. Those are increasing. They're having a hard time having control over keys because they handle a lot of keys in this property management. When it comes to resident retention, occupancy rates are not increasing. It's constantly a conversation they're having with their teams. And even the resident tenure has been decreasing, which is, of course, translating into losing income and low ROI. And when it comes to marketing, they're worried about not being innovators in their space and how to stay competitive versus new stuff that is coming out constantly and competing against you. So let me make a pause, Matt. Based on this 30,000 feet out overview that I just shared, if you could pick one thing that resonates with you the most, Matt, what would that be? And off role play. Your job when it comes to prospecting tactics is to make your prospect speak. Start sharing information. This is how you work on putting that value proposition to work in a conversation that you're having with people or prospects. And if you are in your first year in your business, here's news for you. Ready? And this is probably the best advice that I got years ago when I became an entrepreneur. You need to be getting 5 no's every day. That is your goal. In the first year in business, get 5 no's a day. Get used to them. Stop mourning about them too long. Stop carrying that weight. A no is good. You learn a lesson. Shake it off. Keep behaving. Keep connecting with people. There's another piece of advice that I want to give you today. There's a lot of people saying that prospecting today, because of the situation that a lot of companies are in or under, is unethical. Well, I got news for you. If you have a valuable product or service that people need and organizations need, it would be unethical if you don't offer it. If you're not calling people and organizations to offer it, you have something valuable. Make sure you are convinced about that. That is the 70% I was talking about when it comes to transpiration and having success prospecting. So I want to take just 2 minutes to make a very quick commercial offer, and then I'll make sure that I leave some time for some Q&A. First of all, who's Sandler Training? Sandler Training is a global sales training organization. We take care of San Antonio and South Texas. We have multiple resources to help sales professionals be better in one simple thing: qualifying opportunities and getting in front of opportunities in a consistent basis. people reach out to us because they think they have closing problems. It's never a closing problem. It's a qualification problem. You need a process, you need a system. You don't have to be a salesperson. You have to be an expert in your field. Let us take care of helping you build a process, be systematic, and waste less time or chasing people in opportunities that were never an opportunity. So if for any reason you have a question, you want to meet with me to spend more time discussing this, you may know someone that could take advantage of this information, that needs help. They're in their 1 or 3 years. Or maybe you know about an organization, you know a group that could benefit from this. Please reach out to me through my email. Happy to connect with you and see if we could help you in any way. We have a sales boot camp coming up on June 18. We're going to be talking about this. It's a new era because the way that you were selling 8 weeks ago is very different today. Prospects have changed. The landscape has changed. You have to work and reinforce your talk tracks, your prospecting, your behaviors. So if anyone is interested in this boot camp, happy to jump in a call with you, provide information. We're starting June 18, 16 hours worth of boot camp focused on sales strategies. And my last thing is we have multiple ways to offer you value. So if there's any reason why you have to connect with us, here's the different ways that you could connect with us. Happy to visit with you and help you. We're here to be a resource for you in any way that we can. So I'm going to stop. And Matt, I'm going to turn it back to you and see if there's any questions, anything that we have to focus on, anything that I should be spending more time on, Matt.
Sure, absolutely. So we have a couple more minutes. I'll give the chat a little bit of time to see if there's any questions. But also want to, again, thank you, Angel. And I want to stress that Sandler has a ton of resources, and you guys are also always doing a lot of workshops and events in the community. So there's tons of ways to continue to learn and get in touch with Sandler.
Absolutely. Yep. Happy to help you in any way. And another thing that I want to encourage you to do before we disconnect is, if there's no questions, please share with Matt one thing that you got from this session. What is one takeaway? What is one idea that you can start implementing? Share with Matt, your rating about the session. What are the things that need to be improved? Because I think that Matt would be very interested in knowing that, and see how they can be providing more value to you through these webinars. We want to make sure that we offer you, and Geekdom offers you, valuable content. So that's always good for Geekdom and the team. So share any lessons learned, share any takeaways, rate the session, scale from 1 to 10. What are the things that you liked? What are the things that you believe should be improved?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be sharing this with our members who weren't able to tune in live.
Absolutely.
If you're looking at this later on social media, the workshop will live on our forums, and we'll post it on our YouTube channel. And I guess to close out, if there's no questions, Angel, when it comes to the strategy and the prospecting, after they kind of get a feel for this, what do you think would be the next important thing to focus on? And I think that could potentially lead to future workshops we may do with you all.
Absolutely. Well. So let's pretend that you build a prospecting strategy, it's working. How do you know if it's working? One simple thing, Matt. Are you being consistent staying in front of decision makers? Are you improving in the number of conversations or contacts that you're having every week? So if that is increasing, then It means that your prospecting plan is working. You're now in front of potential customers. The next thing, Matt, that sales organizations need to focus on is stop improvising your sales process. If I was a leader, I want to make sure that we create a common sales language. What are the questions that we need to be asking? What is our gate selling looking like? What are we supposed to be doing in every step of our sales process? How many steps should our sales process have? What are the things that we have to do in every sales process? So the next step, Matt, is figuring out what should a sales process look like based on my type of sales, based on my type of customers, based on my type of world. That is the next step, because if you are successful prospecting, it would be a bummer if you are not converting those opportunities, if you're not being efficient with those conversations and the opportunities are falling through the cracks because of improvising and not having a sales process, Matt.
Great. Awesome. And what I'll do with this link to this webinar is also share your contact information you have here on the last slide. But again, I just want to say very appreciative and thankful for you leading this workshop. Sales is super important for startups and entrepreneurs, and especially with companies that are 1 to 2 people where everybody's doing the selling. Sometimes it's put on the back burner to come up with the strategy, like you were mentioning there at the end. So again, that concludes today's Geekdom online workshop. We're doing this consistently through us being virtual for the last couple months and going forward. Geekdom is starting to prep opening up our space here in June. For more details, check back to our latest newsletter, or feel free to ping me at matthew@geekdom.com. But again, Angel, thanks for leading this workshop, and hope to potentially do another one here in the future with you all.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the week and see you soon. Take care.